Okay, let's talk about gluten and why I'm gluten free. Um, when I was in my early 20s, I started to get very, very ill days after I had just a few drinks the night before. I could have 3 or 4 Bud Lights. The next morning, I'd wake up, my stomach would be so distended and bloated, and I would spend hours upon hours throwing up in the toilet until everything was out of my stomach. It was a horrible process. I didn't know what was going on with my body, so I went to the doctor. Doctor said, "Jake, you're allergic to alcohol." I said, "Nope, that's not going to work. We need to come up with a different plan." He said he had no other explanation. So I left there pretty sad that I would never have another beer with my friends again. So I was talking later on that a couple weeks after that, I'd stopped drinking, and not that I was a heavy drinker, but I just didn't drink at all at this point. And then my sister-in-law had been celiac for a long time, and I was telling her my symptoms and why I wasn't drinking, and she said, "It sounds like you have a gluten intolerance. Maybe you should just cut gluten for a couple weeks and see how you feel." And so that's what we did. It was back in 2011. Being gluten-free was a lot more difficult back then, but we managed. Brittany went gluten-free with me. Did it for about 2 weeks, went to a party, decided to have my first drink in about a month, and went with Angry Orchard because at the time that was the only thing I knew was gluten-free because it said gluten-free on the bottle. So drank a few of those, woke up next morning, felt perfectly fine. I have been gluten-free ever since. And if I accidentally eat some gluten in anything, I feel it. My stomach gets bloated. I'll get a headache. My arms get tingly. And that's basically a result of my body rejecting the protein that's in gluten. To summarize this and make this more of a realistic explanation, this goes back to food production, and it goes back to the way we grow wheat and then process it into, and that's wheat, barley, and rye. We process it into bread. When we first started making bread a long time ago, bread was a slow process. It required a lot of it required a starter. It required yeast. It required a good bacteria. Nowadays, we take wheat from a stalk in the farm, and within hours, it's bread. So we've found a way to cut the good bacteria out of the bread process. So I'm not sure that I'm actually allergic to gluten. I know that I'm allergic to the process of making bread in America. So I eat gluten-free bread, and I supposedly can eat bread and pasta made like in Italy, but I have never tried it, just because I don't want to get sick. If I'm wrong, but because their process is different and slower, I should be able to hypothetically consume foreign wheat and bread. I haven't tried it yet. Maybe that's something I'll try and I'll give you guys a review on. But that's the problem. Now we've found the problem, and you're going to see a lot in these videos that everything's going to come back to the way we mass produce food here in America. So your gut needs bacteria to break down the gluten protein. If we do the quick, fast, super efficient process of cutting wheat and turning it into bread, then we get rid of those bacteria that your gut needs. So your gut ends up rejecting it. It may not happen to you. Some people are more susceptible. Some people have done more damage over time. But for me, I can no longer eat gluten. And there's actually a lot of benefits to that because, one, it makes eating a lot more difficult, or cooking a lot more difficult. I can't run through the drive-thru and I can't grab a burger and fries. But I can. It does force me to cook at home and to eat whole foods. So gluten-free, in summary, I wouldn't do it if you don't have an issue with it, because once you cut gluten, you will get sick when you add it back in. It's not something that you're just like, oh, I didn't eat gluten today because I'm trying to lose a few pounds, and then you go and binge eat gluten all weekend. That's not the way it works. It should be treated like an allergy. It should be treated like a seafood allergy. I always laugh when friends and family are like, they're like, oh, it's just we just put a little bit of gluten in there. And I say, like, if I had a peanut allergy that would possibly kill me, would you say, oh, Jake, we just put a little bit of peanut in there? No, I mean, just the smallest amount is going to affect the body. And for me, the smallest amount will affect my gut, and it'll reverse a lot of things I've done to help that. Um, so I just wanted to put that out about gluten. I feel like there's always this kind of jokingly misunderstanding of gluten. People who are gluten free or celiac, it is not because they can't eat gluten. It's because they really just can't eat the way we process and produce breads and pastas in America. Stay tuned. I'm going to go on about folic acid. Folic acid is something that we all need to talk about, and it's something big that's been coming out. I've been following Gary Brecka on it. I actually have a couple personal stories and experiences to talk about folic acid. So see you next time.